Welcome back, everyone, to the deep dive. Today, we're gonna dive into the fascinating world of the ocellated turkey.
Okay.
Now, you might be thinking turkey, but trust me, this is not your typical Thanksgiving bird. We're talking vibrant colors, tropical lifestyle. It's pretty incredible. And lucky for us, we've got some really cool excerpts to help us get to know these guys better.
Yeah. What's really interesting about them is their range is very limited.
Okay?
They're only found on the Yucatán Peninsula, so that's like Mexico, Belize, Guatemala, and that actually contributes to what makes them so unique.
So you're not going to see them just kind of, wandering around all over the place.
Right.
That's fascinating. Okay, but let's talk about their appearance a little bit. I mean, I was reading that their feathers are absolutely stunning.
Oh, yeah, forget like the browns and the grays that you're used to with like a wild turkey.
Right.
Iridescent green, blue, bronze. I mean, almost like a gemstone.
And I got to ask about those eye-like spots on their tail feathers.
Yeah.
The ocelli, I think.
A sully.
Yeah, that give it her name.
Exactly.
That's the purpose of kind of flamboyant display.
It's all about attraction.
Okay.
There's a celly, especially because I have like this brilliant blue ring around each spot. They play a huge role in the court display. So imagine a male fanning out these feathers.
Wow.
It's a visual. It's like, look at me.
Yeah, so it's not just about looking good. It's actually, a strategic move for survival.
Absolutely.
I love that. Okay, but how else do these tropical turkeys, how else do they differ from the ones that we might see further north?
Well, for one, they don't have a beard. So like a wild turkey has that tuft of like coarse hair.
Right.
They don't have that. And their spurs, which are like the sharp, bony protrusions on their legs, those are a lot longer and more pronounced in the ocellated turkey.
So no beard, but some serious weaponry on the legs.
Yeah, exactly.
I like it. I like it. Okay, so let's picture ourselves for a moment like trekking through the Yucatan. I mean, we're talking like lush, tropical forests, savannas. What's that like for them?
That mix of habitat is really important for them.
Okay.
The forest gives them cover, but the open spaces are good for foraging. And unlike the turkeys you see further north, the ocellated turkeys, they're adapted to this warm, humid environment.
Yeah, makes sense. Okay, so they're tropical specialists. So it makes you wonder about their diet. I mean, are they picky eaters given, this unique environment they live in?
They're actually pretty adaptable when it comes to what they eat.
Okay.
So they're omnivores, and they kind of take advantage of what the Yucatan has to offer seasonally. So if there's like a lot of stuff around, they'll focus on seeds and berries. But if those become scarce, they can switch to insects, small reptiles, I mean, really anything.
So they're opportunistic eaters, making the most of, what their habitat has to offer. And that adaptability is probably key for their survival, especially with all the challenges, that environment can throw at them.
Oh, definitely.
Okay, well, speaking of challenges, let's transition a little bit to their mating season. I read that it runs from March to May.
Right.
And that's when things, I imagine, get really interesting.
Yeah, it's go time for the males.
Okay, so paint us a picture. I mean, we've got the scene set, we've got this vibrant plumage, this weaponry on the legs.
Yeah.
What happens next?
It's showtime. The males, they fan out those tail feathers, showing off all those ocellis. And then there's the gobbling.
Oh, is their gobble different from the one we're used to?
Oh, yeah. It's been described as higher pitched and like more musical.
Really?
Yeah, almost like trying to serenade the females.
Oh, interesting. Interesting. Okay, so it's a little less, like Turkey Showdown, a little bit more Barry White, maybe.
Right.
Okay. But so what happens once the females are, wooed? Who's in charge of the nest, the chicks, all that?
So the females, they take on the responsibility of nesting, raising the young. They'll lay between 8 and 15 eggs, and then they're incubated for about 28 days.
Okay. That's a pretty big responsibility, especially you consider the threats they face. And speaking of threats, I understand that ocellated turkeys are facing some pretty serious challenges.
Yeah, unfortunately they are. The IUCN, which is the International Union for Conservation of Nature, they classify them as near threatened.
Okay.
Which means they're just one step away from being considered officially threatened.
Wow.
And that, obviously has implications for their future.
Yeah, so what are some of the main factors that are contributing to this near threatened status? I mean, I imagine Habitat loss is a big one.
Yeah, definitely. Deforestation and agricultural expansion, that's encroaching on their habitat, their living space.
Right.
And it's a big concern because they need that specific mix of forest and open areas.
Yeah. It's like, their specialized adaptations are almost making them more vulnerable in
Right.
the face of human activity, which is kind of sad.
It is, and there's another threat, hunting and poaching.
And we talked about, how beautiful their feathers are, but sadly, beauty can attract some unwanted attention.
Absolutely. Those feathers, people want them, so they become a target for poachers.
Okay, so we've got this, perfect storm of challenges that they're facing. But are there any glimmers of hope?
There are.
Actually, good.
There are some conservation efforts being implemented in Mexico, Belize, and Guatemala, where these turkeys are, mainly found.
That's good news. What kind of efforts are we talking about?
Well, one of the most crucial ones is habitat protection. So establishing protective areas where those forests, those savannas can remain untouched.
Yeah.
It's all about creating safe havens for them.
So giving them space to thrive. Okay, but what about the hunting and the poaching issue? Are there ways to address that?
Yeah, sustainable hunting regulations are key.
Okay.
So if hunting is allowed, it needs to be managed very carefully to not threaten the population.
Yeah, finding that balance between, human needs and the needs of the species.
Exactly.
Okay. Are there any other approaches, being used to kind of help the ocellated turkey?
There's another angle that's actually been pretty effective, ecotourism.
Oh, ecotourism. Okay, so how does that play into conservation?
Well, in the Yucatan, there are like organizations and local communities that have developed ecotourism initiatives,
Okay.
and they're focused on the ocellated turkey. So they do guided tours so people can see these birds in their natural habitat.
So tourists get this amazing experience, and the ocellated turkey, they benefit from the attention and hopefully the protection.
Right. And it's not just the money, although that does get reinvested.
Right.
It also raises awareness. So people, when they see these birds firsthand, they learn about the threats. They become more invested in their conservation.
Yeah, it's like this ripple effect of, awareness and action.
Yeah.
Okay. Um, are there like specific things about the ocellated turkey that make them particularly well suited for ecotourism, you think?
Oh yeah, definitely. First of all, the plumage, it's a showstopper. People
Uh,
people are drawn to that beauty. It makes them a star attraction.
yeah, you've got like a feathered celebrity in the rainforest.
Right. And then also they're limited range. You can't find them everywhere.
Right.
So it makes, seeing them in the wild, it makes it more special.
It's like an exclusive club, the Ocellated Turkey Fan Club.
Yeah, and then also their behavior, those courtship displays, it's pretty captivating to watch.
It's a combination of, the looks, the rarity, the behavior.
Absolutely.
So, okay, let's shift gears for a minute. Let's talk a little bit about the research that's being done on the ocellated turkey. What are scientists learning about these birds?
Well, researchers are looking at a variety of things like their genetics, their breeding patterns, habitat use, all that. But one thing that's particularly interesting is their adaptation to the rainforest.
Right. We talked about like how different their environment is compared to those, the turkeys up north in the colder climates.
Right.
So how are they specifically adapted to the tropics?
Well, for one, they have a much higher tolerance for heat and humidity.
Okay.
Their plumage is actually designed to help regulate their body temperature in that climate.
So it's not just for show. It's actually essential.
No, it's essential for their survival. Researchers are also looking at their diet, their foraging behavior, trying to understand how they deal with the seasonal changes and food availability.
Right, because we talk about how they're omnivores and eat all sorts of stuff. So how does understanding their diet help us with conservation efforts?
Well, understanding those dietary shifts helps us know which habitats are most important.
Okay,
So if we know what they need to eat throughout the year,
makes sense.
we can protect those areas.
Okay, so it's all about connecting the dots between, what they eat, where they live, and ultimately how they survive.
Exactly. And then there's research being done on their breeding biology, which is really fascinating.
Yeah, I mean those courtship displays. I mean they're pretty elaborate.
Yeah.
What are scientists finding out about their mating habits?
They're looking at things like mate choice, nesting success, how many chicks survive. All of that is important to understand their population
Right, right.
and what might be limiting their reproductions.
Yeah, it's like putting this puzzle together. All
Yeah.
these different pieces to to understand their overall well-being.
And that's what makes it so interesting. I mean, there's always something new to learn.
It sounds like there's, a lot of exciting research going on, but it also seems like there's still a lot we don't know
Oh, absolutely.
about the ocellated turkey.
And that's part of, what makes them so fascinating. They're like this reminder that even though we think we know so much, there are still mysteries out there.
Right.
Species to understand, stories to be told.
Speaking of stories, I think it's time we shift gears a little bit and talk about the cultural significance of the ocellated turkey.
Okay.
Because, I mean, these birds they're not just these biological wonders. They also have, this special place in the history and the traditions of the people who live alongside them.
Right. And for centuries, they've been like a really important part of the culture and the folklore of the Maya people in the Yucatan.
And we're not talking like, Thanksgiving dinner here.
No, it goes way beyond that. They
Okay.
have a symbolic role
Okay.
in Maya mythology. You'll see them in their ancient art, their hieroglyphics, and there are all these stories, these legends that are passed down through generations.
So they're really woven into the fabric of Maya culture.
They are. I mean, in some of their creation myths, the ocellated turkey is seen as this divine messenger,
Oh, wow.
a link between the human world and the spirit world.
That's incredible. It's amazing to think about how these birds have been, revered and celebrated for centuries.
It is, and it reminds us that our relationship with nature, it's not just about science.
Right.
It's about culture, it's about spirituality, it's about the stories we tell ourselves about the world around us.
Okay, so we've kind of explored their biology, their habitat, the threats they face, the efforts to protect them, and even their cultural significance. But I feel like there's one more piece to examine here.
The big picture.
Yeah,
Yeah.
the global context. I mean, how does the story of the ocellated turkey fit into this broader narrative of biodiversity loss and conservation that we're facing all over the planet?
Right. And the challenges that they're facing, unfortunately they're not unique.
Yeah.
Habitat loss, climate change, pollution, overexploitation, these are things that are affecting so many species around the world.
And it's all connected.
It is.
I mean, what happens to one species, it can have this ripple effect through an entire ecosystem.
Absolutely. The ocellated turkey is almost like this this microcosm of the environmental crisis that we're in right now.
Right. So what do we do? I mean, what can our listeners do to make a difference? Not just for the ocellated turkey, but for all the other species out there that are struggling to survive in this rapidly changing world.
Well, I mean, there are a lot of things,
Okay.
but I think it starts with education.
Okay.
The more we understand about biodiversity loss, about ecosystems, the better we can make informed choices.
So, read books, watch documentaries, listen to podcasts like this one even.
Exactly. And then there's the power of our consumer choices.
Okay.
So, support sustainable businesses, reduce our consumption, choose eco-friendly options.
Voting with our wallets.
Exactly. And then there's the power of our voices.
Okay.
So contact your elected officials, support organizations that are doing good work, speak out against policies that are harmful.
So being active citizens,
Yes,
making our voices heard.
absolutely. And we can also make changes in our own backyards. Plant native species, reduce our use of pesticides.
So even small actions can make a difference.
Absolutely. And we can inspire others to do the same.
Right. Talk to our friends, our family.
Yeah, share what you learn, encourage them to take action.
Yeah, it's like creating this ripple effect
Exactly.
of positive change, one person, one community at a time.
Exactly. And I think that's a great place to pause for a moment.
Okay.
We'll be back to wrap up our exploration of the ocellated turkey and talk a little bit more about what we can all do to help ensure a brighter future for this incredible bird and really for all the creatures that share this planet.
So we were just discussing how ecotourism can be a real force for good, not just for the ocellated turkey, but for conservation in general. But I'm curious, how does that work on the ground? Can you give us some concrete examples of ecotourism in action, like specifically in the Yucatan?
Yeah, absolutely. There are some really cool initiatives happening right now. For instance, there are organizations and local communities that have partnered to create these guided tours
Okay.
that are specifically designed for observing ocellated turkeys in their natural habitat.
Oh, cool.
And these tours, they're not just about like spotting a colorful bird, it's about educating visitors about